In the executive coaching world, there's a distinction made between coaching and consulting that I gotta say, frankly, has rung hollow for me. Because the kind of consulting that they are making a distinction before feels a bit like a straw person, because that kind of consulting that they are comparing to coaching is a kind of consulting that most organizational development consultants don't even do, which is expert consulting. Both executive coaching and consulting are very close to my heart, and I think we would better serve the leaders that we work with if we were able to make the distinctions between executive coaching and consulting in such a way that we saw them as more close relatives rather than two different strangers that live on two completely different planets. I talk about the similarities and differences that I see between executive coaching and consulting in an interview that I did with Robin Altman. She's an executive coach and also a faculty member in the coaching school at the Adler Professional Graduate School in Toronto. Here's a portion of that interview where I do discuss the similarities and the differences that I see between executive coaching and consulting.
So if you were to, I'm not sure I'm going to be putting you on the spot with this question, but if you were to describe the difference that you would say between the coach coaching and a consultant consulting, how might you describe that difference?
Mm-hmm. You're asking me to get up on my soapbox.
Why not? We're having so much fun already.
We are having fun. The soapbox is that I think there's too much of a barrier between consulting and coaching. Okay, now I gotta speak into the microphone. Speak into the microphone. We have a microphone.
Tell us, MaryBeth.
No, first of all, I just want to mark a little asterisk. Your students who are coming from the consulting and HR fields, this does not give you a blank check to just use your skills willy-nilly. You have to learn what they're teaching you. I want to come back to that. But I think there's been a kind of a straw person in the coaching field called the big bad consultant.
Okay.
And I think it's time for us to not, okay, fine. Let's get more refined in what we mean. Because I think the big bad wolf has actually been expert consultants. Those are the people who are asked. They're asked. The client says, we're broken. Please come in, help us fix it. And when I say help us, I actually mean, please, you just do it.
Yes.
And we'll pay you a lot of money to make that happen.
Yeah.
That's the expert consultant.
Yeah.
But there's something called process consulting that is completely different from that and actually has a very common value system to the coaching field. And what that is the leader says, wow, we're broken. We need help. Please fix it. And the process consultant goes, actually, we don't do the fixing. But what we can do is help you get clear, articulate what the issue is, get as much information from all the stakeholders as possible, feed that back to you and them, and then you all decide what actions you're going to take. And then we kind of more like a coordinator, just coordinate all the pieces of that action, but that action is yours. You own the goal, you own the action plan, you own the evaluation, you own what you do after that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That sounds a lot like coaching.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's self-directed. It's self-directed, and even the process that you're choosing to introduce as a means of getting there, you're introducing it in response to what the leader of the team and the team are looking for. Would you say? Yeah.
Totally. This is how I look at it. I think it's not even so much what you talk about. It's what you focus on when you talk about it. So from a consultant point of view, and I've been in both of these roles. So from a consultant point of view, the focus, the reason why I'm hired is when there's a problem and leaders are looking at me like, okay, I have to make this thing happen. How do you help me? The consultant is focused on developing a process that the leader and the team or the division or the organization can go through. That's the focus. That's their job, is what's the best process that can be used.
Okay.
The focus of the coach is on the leader's functioning. That's what's really important. Is now the leader's going to have to go, because they work in an organization where there are consultants who develop processes. They're going to have to go through this process. But how are they functioning when they go through that process? Because I say there's a different focus for both. While the leader is telling me about where they're struggling, I'm also kind of, I got this little list in the back of my about sort of like a diagnostic tool. And what it has is models around leader functioning, like backbone arts on there,
Yeah.
But there's also models of group process, change dynamics, like how well does this leader even understand that they're creating a change? All of that's happening as well on the inside. And the reason I'm bringing that forward is I think it's important. I think consultants do that kind of like, that's just their bailiwick. They're thinking about diagnostic, what's the most powerful diagnostic model, therefore process.
Yes.
For us, I think we need to have some of that savvy so that we're thinking when the leader says, Sally and Joe are constantly fighting with each other, and I want our team to get along better. We need to be savvy enough to know, okay, is this really an interpersonal issue? Or has the leader not done all they need to do in terms of clarifying roles and goals? So I want to make sure that the leader's directing their attention in the most productive, most highly leveraged space. Now, they're going to have to be developing themselves to be able to pull that off. So I still see I'm in the coaching space.
Yeah.
But I'm double checking their diagnosis against how I'm reading what's happening also in the situation.
When we use the word consultant, sort of got a bad rap, because in process consulting, that's where the synergies are. There are synergies there, is what I'm hearing. You're saying, particularly, yeah. I'm also hearing this is in the team context more than it is in the individual context.
Yes, it is. It's the leader team unit.
Yeah. Okay.
I love that you're using the word synergy, because I believe there are synergies between coaching and process consulting. Mm-hmm. This process consulting, it comes from Kurt Lewin, for those of you who know that history, and it's called action research. And it's all about the client owns all of that.
Well, this is very, very enlightening for me. Something that we have talked about so much. And I think that this brings a whole new level of understanding to, the consultant and process consulting. So I really appreciate that going into that.
I do want to, so let me come back. I'm talking to the HR people. When you're in a coaching school, the foundational coaching skills are absolutely critical. Absolutely critical. You have to have a terminal case of curiosity. Curiosity that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. You're not guiding them down any kind of a path. It's discovery. That has to absolutely be the thing that you're practicing, because you need the reps. You absolutely need the reps. And those skills have to be so foundational that now they're just coming out of you like, you're unconsciously competent at them.
Yeah.
Because in the consulting world and the HR world, we're so driven by come up with an answer, come up with a quick, and just kind of shoehorn it into the rest of everything that's going on. And what gets lost is the functioning of the leader.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
the best process consultants have always known that they have to pay attention to the functioning of the leader. And my hope is the best of executive coaches know they have to understand group process models, change management theory, all of that, because
Yes.
it's an organizational setting. Well, and even if let's just say that I totally have I'm right on the nose. I've diagnosed exactly what is going on. From a coaching perspective, what I need to be curious about is how up for it is the leader for their growth in that situation.
Right.
What are they willing to take on?
Yeah.
How are they looking at it? Who are they blaming?
Yeah.
That's where my curiosity needs to be.
Yes. Yeah. And again, coaching the person, not the problem. Who are they being in this situation? While you may be able to diagnose it or you think you got it, well, who is this individual leader being as they walk through this? So powerful, so powerful.
This membership I have, Revitalab, it's for coaches, consultants, and HR folks. The emphasis is on coaching, but those fields are welcomed because, as I mentioned, yes, you're responsible for developing these processes, but you have got to be looking at the functioning of that leader, or those processes fail.
Yeah.
So the coaching field can so help the consulting field. And that process consulting field can so help the coaching field because of these models, tools, processes that are organizationally savvy.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
Group process, change dynamics, the use of authority, structures. We just need to be aware of those and understand that there's kind of a ranking of what creates the most powerful leverage points for change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, again, I really appreciate you sharing how you see this, because we have growing pains in a positive way. The ICF just reconfigured their different divisions in order to facilitate growth, and they launched a new logo, and there's just a lot of growth happening. And this really speaks to some of the very conversations that have been happening in the back room that haven't been really talked about. So I really appreciate you sharing this with us.
So you can see that I encourage consultants to understand the core work of coaches, which is to focus on the functioning of the leader. And I encourage coaches to focus on the core work of consultants, which is to have processes which really help with group dynamics and group development. Both sets of these incredibly useful models and tools and processes are essential for coaches and consultants who work with leaders in their teams. There is such a rich overlap with our clients that can lead to some great synergies. All of us work with leaders, some of us in more strategic group process work, and some of us with more focus on the leader's functioning and development. But it's also relevant, practical, and interrelated no matter which role we play.